Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. This is Tony Mary of ETHOSystems. I'm the Vice President of Sales for our Southwest and Rocky Mountain region. And in today's webinar, I'm going to be discussing Sage 300 CRE's project management module in an overview form, and more specifically, what it provides for functionality that Sage 300 Job Cost does not. So with that, we'll go ahead and get right into the software. So first I want to point out that within the desktop, Sage 300 CRE desktop, there is a job overview dashboard that comes with the system. I will refer to this a couple times today as information is going to be populated from project management into this dashboard. Those items will be around document control and also change requests and change orders, etc. So jumping into project management, the first notable difference of this application over job cost is when setting up a project. When you set up a project in job cost, that is typically when you already have a contract established, you've been awarded the project, that hits your accounting system, etc. In project management, it varies a little bit that you can set up a project and number it if it's a project you're bidding on that you have not been awarded. And until you create or click this button here, it will not go into job cost. It will only live in project management. It also gives you the opportunity, if you're using estimate or bid numbers, that you can renumber this project once it does go to job cost, so you can create a contract number. The front page is very similar to items you'll find within job cost, but the biggest variation is moving into the site and contacts. Our project management application is geared to transmit documents and communicate with your subcontractors, vendors, or project team of your own. So within here, you'll see the site address, the phone, etc. But the biggest port is looking at the contacts down here. This is your subs, your suppliers. You can sort by roles and titles, etc. But one powerful feature is you can build a distribution list. So you see I have Clackamas Off Park engineers and subs, suppliers, owners, reps. So later when we're looking at some of the documents, I don't have to select every subcontractor. If I'm setting out a drawing log, I can just select subcontractors and that will transmit that out directly to them. Moving through the job setup, we can load spec sections in here. This is for noting on things like submittals and RFIs and change orders and just sending out a list, again, to subs and suppliers or for your own reference sake. These can be set up as a standard spec section with a list of ones that you commonly see, or you can build these as you go. Moving to the Scope and Documents tab, this is where you will cut and paste the scope of your work in there. But more importantly, who are you going to send your submittals to? So in this case, this is the architect and engineer. Who are you going to send your RFIs to, and what are their days to respond? The days to respond is a trigger from the dashboard, which will say when something is overdue. In our change management tab, what we're able to do is say every time we have a change request to, when we send our change request to, in this case, the architect or engineer, who are we going to send this to? How do we want to mark this up automatically at a project level? So in this case, I've got 5% profit, 5% overhead. You might do fixed fee work or service fee work where, you just charge $1,000 for every change, or that is just a fixed price fee. In here, we can also say what category do you want to put this to? If you want to put that to a cost code, etc. And then down at the bottom, the change order, who it's to and who it's from. The from column assists if you're utilizing project accountants, project coordinators that are creating change requests and change orders for project managers. And just by default, it will reference the project manager, not the user themselves. As with all things in Sage 300 CRE, we do have an attachments field over on the side. So again, custom fields are here for you to create those items as you wish. Moving over a little bit into some of the functionality, I commonly referred to project management is broken up into three big buckets: dollars, days, and documents. So what we're going to talk about first is the documents portion. This is not in job cost. The ability to integrate to Microsoft Office with a correspondence log. And what this will do is you can automatically save emails from Outlook. You can save Excel files and Word documents if you're doing custom reporting or sending things or logging things in that manner. And this is just a way for you to search through those items, and you can get down to the source of truth on a certain document. If I grab another project that has a little bit more, I can see comments. I can see that there's SK5 in here. I can sort by these items so I can see everything for SK5. I can look who it's from and to and what the subject, etc. And again, just a way for me to search and compile that information. Also, you can just hit new and manually log these in. There's a lot of flexibility with the ability to include attachments. The next is the drawing log. The drawing log on a project is really just that. It's a way for you to keep track of what is current. You'll see by default, it is showing only my current drawings. So any revisions, etc. And I'll just draw your attention to Architectural A1 Overview Rev 1. That is my current drawing. You'll see it's checked. If I uncheck this box, you'll see there was a prior plan, a few weeks before that. There was also an SK. So this also is what's going to populate out to the dashboard. So I'm looking at all disciplines. I can look down at my landscape drawings if there's just one there, I believe. HVAC drawings, etc. So just a way for you to keep track of what's there and make sure and communicate that to your project team. And also this will be the first point we're going to see this transmittal button. Now the transmittal button, what it's going to do is if I go and say, let's just look at architectural drawings and I want to transmit these out, you'll see it pulled all of the drawings in here. Which ones do I want to include? Which ones don't I want to include? I can make some additional changes here. And then when I say OK, it pops open the transmittal. This is much like a hard copy form. You're used to seeing what's included, A1, Rev 1, etc. But in addition to having the standard fields and functions, you're also going to see the send button. So this will link up to your Microsoft Exchange and send an email out with your email signature, inclusive of the attachments. If you wanted to print this out, you would simply select that icon there. So I'm just going to take a moment and refer back to this dashboard real fast as we've referenced a couple things that are hitting here. First and foremost, document control. Here's correspondence if you've set due dates to those items. Those are there. But also what this is going to provide you a quick access to without even logging into the project management is I can easily just come in here and start looking at things. So what is my current drawing log? Well, it would help to be on a project that has the drawing log. My apologies. But I can look in at my change request log as well. So we're going to get into this in a moment, but it's giving me information into project data without drilling into the module, nor am I using the license that it takes for project management. So moving back and looking at the documents, one powerful feature we have in here is for meeting minutes. Now, meeting minutes are, yes, if you were holding the meeting, you're responsible for the meeting, but also if you just want to keep track or have your team members keep track of items that are discussed. So looking at this, I'm looking at a new meeting, and what we're going to see if I expand this out a little bit is a few sections. The general information, this is a weekly meeting, could be a safety meeting, a pre-job walk, then also the attendees and distribution. So who was the attendee and actually did they attend? Any comments around that? Maybe they showed up 15 minutes late. Maybe someone attended in their behalf. Now we'll move down to the items list, the items that are contained in this meeting. So you'll see now, if I click new item, we'll see item number 6-1. That's because we're in the 6th meeting, and this is the first item in this meeting. Referencing back up into here, meeting number 1, we still have item number 3 open from meeting number 1, item number 3 from 2, etc. And until these are selected as closed, these will automatically roll over every time you select a new meeting. Going forward with meetings, the meeting date, the start time, the end time, the next date, and the next time that is there. If you are utilizing the My Assistant application, My Assistant can automatically distribute this to your team members that were marked as attended or all of the team members and remind them of this date and time. Alternatively, you can just utilize the send function there. And again, utilizing Microsoft Exchange, that will do that. If you want to put a transmittal on top of it and send from there, you have that option as well. Within here, we have the ability for custom fields if you like to capture items that are not in the standard template form here. And then also, as in everywhere, the attachments button. Moving down the list, we're going to talk about RFIs for just a moment. I'm going to pull open an existing RFI, and real fast, you'll see I am in this project's RFI log. And please note that when I am moving around from task to task and document to document, I'm not having to pick the job each time. It is defaulting because there's utility, if you can see down at the bottom, it says my last job used. Typically, we find project managers and people involved on the projects are working in one or two. So this way, I don't have to hit a drop-down list. I don't have to go right there. Nice, quick, and easy. So in this case, I'm just going to grab this RFI, and you'll see we're in groups again. So who it's to, who it's from, urgencies. There the spec section comes into play and what it's regard to, what drawing was it in regards to, what is the overall issue. Now this might be from you, this might be from your subcontractor, as in who is it submitted by? This is my team, Timberline Construction. I received it from A1 Electric Company. So receive number 2, second receipt unanswered. Here are the answers. So just being able to go through and log that information. Again, I have the ability to include attachments and custom fields I can send from here. And if this one was not already addressed, I can actually select new change request. If the reply that I received resulted in additional work, we can do a change request. And we'll talk more about change requests in just a moment. So moving down to the final section that I want to discuss in the documents portion is submittals. So logging your submittals and tracking your submittals and communicating those is one of the strengths of the system. So I can look at a specific spec section, what number, and in this case, I have some existing data. So let's look at our electrical drawings. They're approved as noted. And in this case, there was no revisions. If you had sent these out and they'd come back with comments, we can just put in revise and resubmit. Every time you receive the submittals back, you simply click new revision and you'll see the first one is no rev. Now we have a revision here and you put the marks in, and then as you get answers back, you fill this in. We are capturing dates and times. So again, on that dashboard we saw, it will log those. If you are using My Assistant can help you monitor that and remind you they're expired, or not expired, but overdue. The last thing that we'll have in documents, and I won't go into this too much, is field reports. Now, the first question we always receive on field reports is, do we have the ability to do these from a mobile app? There is a mobile app, the Sage Field Operations, that is not covered in this webinar, but we can directly integrate to this field report list. Other than that, it's really just used within the system. So if your project manager's in the office, logging a field report. In this case, we have a daily report. You can have a drop-down list, so you can say this is a weekly summary, this is an incident report, and just going quickly across. Just please note, if none of these tabs or some of these tabs don't apply to you, we can turn them off. If you don't want to log weather and site, we can turn that tab off. One function of the field report is that we can actually enter in payroll time. And by enter in, I mean create a timesheet for the day for a whole crew of people, one person at a time, and then pre-fill from previous. And a lot of times this send to payroll button is password or user controlled through security, that a project manager or someone, a superintendent, is not sending payroll time. Someone from accounting would log in and do that. So there is the opportunity to come in and actually fill out timesheets in here. And again, Sage Field Operations is a great application to populate that data. Logging subcontractor subcontractor on site and their headcount. Equipment that you are utilizing from the equipment module. Any materials that are received, in quantities and who was received by, and if you know who was purchased from on purchase order. Again, just a report of logging. So work activities in progress, we can see here, Costco HVAC, their new percentage of complete, they're now 5%. Or they did 5% today and they are now 5%. So if this was 10% previously, they would be at 15. So just a way to track progress on your project and who's doing what, and get an overall report of how is your HVAC subcontractor doing. Anything that is started or originated, things that could be an extra, a work order, a change order, this is where we can capture this in. So if damage to materials happened or something occurred and witnessed on the project that or feel that may result in extra work, this is where we can capture it, and we can directly link it to a change order request at that point. and if work was performed on a change order request, we can also do that. Notify the PM just to make sure that it is being communicated across your team. The events tab is used to just log events. What happened? There was an accident at 10:45 to 11:05. There's notes fields, custom fields, all of this, who was involved. Just an opportunity to grab that information, logging visitors, and then journal entries would be the catch-all. These are custom fields and custom boxes for you if you want to capture information not contained in those previous tabs. Also notable is that right from here, we can create an RFI based on extra works or events that have happened in the day. So, like I said, we have dollars, days, and documents. The last thing I really want to point out is how we handle some of the dollars differently than job cost does. In job cost, your commitments or your subcontracts and purchase orders also have change orders. And then in job cost, you just have change orders with a status. Is it pending? Is it submitted? In our system, we do have commitment change orders, obviously, for your subs and suppliers and vendors, and we have change orders to approve or deny them, but we also institute a change request function. What that is an ability for us to go in and more cleanly and concisely log potential changes. So you'll see I have 15 of them here in all forms of approval status. As we know, they're never approved sequentially. They're picked and chosen and approved as needed and what is the highest priority. So if I just grab any old one of these as an example, in the change requests screen, you'll see there's some notes, description, and scopes. Also, if there was something like an RFI, or in this case, a bulletin, EGA-02, what is the source of this? From the RFIs, like I mentioned, we can create a new change request. This would pre-fill with the RFI and the number. So just the who's it to and from information on this, the header information, the detail of this, in your contracts module, where on your schedule of values do you want to put this? We can assign a new line to it. So change order number, 5 on line 21 if we wanted. And just some basic, reasons and cause and who's initiated it to, and then some custom fields for reporting. The final tab over here is your price cost estimate. And we're looking at price right now. This project is priced at time and material. You're going to notice we have several cost codes, several categories and descriptions, and quantities, each is in hours and cost. Also, if I flip over to my vendor pricing, cost estimate, other price, and vendor, you'll see that Beaverton Sand and Gravel on their commitment 2321. We're going to need to buy some more material from them. So should this get approved, we're going to create a commitment change order for them should this one ever be approved. Please note that down below, the profit and overhead. This was in the project defaults where I showed you in the job setup that we want 5% profit, 5% overhead in here. So I don't need to worry about how much markup. This was already determined for me. Also, if you're utilizing Sage Estimating, you can write from here, bring in an estimate from Sage Estimating, or if you have access to that module, you can draw out or go out and create a new one right here. So the last function within the change orders that I'll talk about today is when you get a determination on the change orders. So here's a list of the change orders. This is the owner, the architect, the higher ups, maybe your general contractor as they're approving things for you. So in this case, I'm just going to open this up and we're going to do a new one here. So description, new changes, you'll see our contract item. In this case, if we don't want to add it to an existing item, what we're able to do is say, well, we want to add line item 21. And it's going to let us on the fly create line item number 21. Change order number 7, that's the description. Progress bill, this is time and material like the others. If you're utilizing subjobs or extras, we can designate at that point where that is going to. So the great part about this now is once you get the determination, you now can go in and select those change requests. So maybe they approved number 1 finally, and number 3 and number 6. At that point, it's going to calculate all of those. It's already set to approved. All you would need to do is at this point hit save and then update the estimate that these are actually approved estimates. Again, from here we can transmit if you wanted to send this out to your subs to let them know or communicate in your team that they were there. The last thing I want to talk about is not in regards to dollars, days, and documents, but actually information, getting it out of the system and interacting with it. Within project management, there is a standard inquiry that I'm pulling open that's called job overview. What is nice about the job overview is that each line represents a different job and each column represents a different set of data. I have actually turned several columns off, but there is a lot of data contained in here. So if I wanted to look at any of this information within these columns, I want to look at my pending changes, I can double click my way in. If I wanted to look at my RFIs, I can double click my way in. So looking at drawings, sorry, I keep grabbing the job without drawings. If I wanted to look in there at my drawing logs, they are there. But much more important than that is the ease of access of information for your project team. They can see what is my revised contract amount. You can see change order number 7 has been approved. That is the one we just did just now. I can look at my estimate and how that's been affected. So again, a lot of features and functionality that I would love to cover with you today, but for the sake of the overview, I'll conclude this webinar now. Should you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly, the contact information on the screen, or you can call our office, either the Chicago office or the Arizona office, and have a representative help you out. Thank you in advance for your time, and I appreciate it.